we now have a glaring conflict of interest at the heart of the Conservative Party. Lord Wolfson is the Shadow Attorney General. He is the most senior legal advisor to the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch. He advises shadow ministers on the most important legal matters in this country. And I believe that his position is now untenable. Just today, we heard that he has now recused himself from providing any legal advice related to Ukraine. But we don't know what that actually means. Does that mean any policy related to deterring Russian aggression? Does it mean any policy related to sanctions? Does it mean any policy related to NATO? Does it indeed mean any policy related to tax? Because we know from the BBC investigation last year that Roman Abramovich is accused of avoiding up to £1 billion in UK tax by using British overseas territories and Crown dependencies. And in fact, this case is being litigated in a British Crown dependency in Jersey. And it is naive in the extreme to think that you can separate these cases. And we know that because Roman Abramovich's own team have briefed the media that the Jersey case is related to the release of the Chelsea money. So we cannot separate these cases out in the way that the Shadow Attorney General seems to think he is able to do so. So I believe that it is untenable. I believe it is a conflict of interest, and I look forward to Kemi Badenoch showing some leadership on this issue and clarifying exactly what their position now is on the role of the Shadow Attorney General in advising on this policy. So look, I know as Christopher said, Roman Abramovich happens to be a former constituent of the area that I represent. I know how much people care about this issue. £2.5 billion is not a small amount of money. That could go an extremely long way to helping rebuild Ukraine and helping alleviate humanitarian needs. So thank you everyone for coming this evening. I want to reiterate the Prime Minister's strong words today that he will stand with Ukraine and President Zelensky for as long as it takes. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you very much. And as we know, to this day, Abramovich has not made any apology for his ties to Putin. He has expressed no regret, no remorse to the Ukrainian people for the events unfolding. So we need to be holding him fully to account and hit them where it hurts in their pockets. I want to introduce the next speaker, who were also with us back in 2014 at Chelsea. That was the ASLEV Train Drivers Union. The Assistant General Secretary is here, Simon Weller, who visited Ukraine just months after the full-scale invasion with us.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be very, very brief because I think we all know what's at stake here. But I just want to correct Christopher on one thing. I have never actually seen a football game in my life, whether it be live, televised or otherwise. And I wasn't entirely sure who Abramovich was. It was my boss, Mick Whelan, who is the Chelsea season ticket holder. And he explained at some length as to the fortunes of Chelsea. However, that is not the point. The real issue here is we're dealing with the Tory opposition. Have they not learned in the last 18 months? They were sacked by the British electorate for being shameless. Yet they continue to be shameless. They recognise this is a conflict of interest, but the sweet, sweet, sweet Russian money is just too much for them to resist. Unless they take real action on this, and not just recuse yourself, that's a nonsense. Unless they drop this representation or drop the Shadow Attorney General, then they really have no place in our politics, in our democracy, because by their actions they undermine our democracy and support the authoritarian regimes that are quite frankly clearly becoming the enemy of democratic nations. So with that, Christopher, thank you.
Thank you. We have a statement we're going to read from the Public and Commercial Services Union, who are currently with us. Sasha is going to read it. Thank you, Sasha.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Sasha Ismail. I'm Trade Union Officer for the Ukraine Solidarity Campaign. I'm going to read a statement from another of our affiliated unions, alongside ASLEF and 5 other national unions. One of our affiliates is the Public and Commercial Services Union, which is the main civil service union in the UK. And this statement is from John Maloney, who's the Assistant General Secretary of the PCS. John says, "Apologies to all those here. Unfortunately, PCS has not been able to supply a speaker for this demonstration. Notwithstanding that, my union fully supports this protest. And like all those here, we call upon Lord Wolfson KC to be stripped of his shadow Attorney General position. And we call on the Labour government to transfer all the frozen assets, including those from the Chelsea sell-off, to Ukraine, where that money is vitally needed. As from the first days of the full-scale invasion, the PCS union stands full square behind the unions and people of Ukraine. And we reiterate the position overwhelmingly agreed by our national conference that only the Ukrainian people have the right to decide on what basis any peace deal should be concluded. Solidarity with Ukraine." So that's from John Maloney, Assistant General Secretary of the PCS Civil Service Union.
Thank you. I'm very pleased that our next speaker is from Ukraine, from the Goldsmith Ukrainian Student Society. Very pleased to introduce Miriam.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariana, and I'm speaking today on behalf of Ukrainian students in the UK. I'm here today not only as a student in the UK, but also as a Ukrainian who refused to look away while injustice is happening in real time. Ukrainian students abroad have not been silent. We organize, we protect, we speak out, and we defend our country wherever we are. That is why it is unacceptable that billions of pounds linked to Russian oligarchs remain frozen in legal battles, instead of being used to help people in Ukraine whose lives been destroyed by the crucial war. Many of us here have family and friends in Ukraine. Some of us wake up every day to news of missile strikes, power cuts, and cities under attack. For us, it's not politics, it's personal. That's why it's deeply troubling that the Shadow Attorney General is reportedly working as a lawyer for Roman Abramovich, a sanctioned oligarch, in a case that is delaying money meant for Ukraine. It is not ethical, and it sends a clear message about whose interests are being prioritized. As students, we believe public office should mean public responsibility. You cannot claim to stand for justice while helping protect the wealth of those who benefited from a regime waging war on civilians. Our message today is simple: no business as usual with Russian oligarchs. This war has already taken too much. Delays cost lives. Legal excuses don't rebuild schools or hospitals. We are here to say, all frozen assets for Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!
Everybody, thank you very much. I was waiting on our next speaker, but you're stuck with me again. Okay. I just wanted to continue to emphasise this point that I began by making, that we shouldn't see this issue separate from the war itself. You can't talk about representing the Russian oligarch. You can't talk about obstructing the aid going to Ukraine from this frozen money. You can't talk about these things outside of the context that the war is continuing and taking place every single day. What kind of barrister is it that believes he can represent these people, take their money, and not consider what they represent, what is happening in Ukraine, what this money is meant to be for, who it's meant to be aiding? I'll give one example. The Save Ukraine Centre in Kyiv, which rescues children from the Russian-occupied territories, had its money cut off by Trump. That money was being used to smuggle children out from areas where we know they're being abused. 1 in 10 of the children they rescued has been subject to sexual abuse. Every penny of this money that could come from the Russian assets could go to be invested in projects like that, to rebuild the homes that have been destroyed, to rebuild the defences that have been weakened by the Americans who cut off the aid. All of that could be done to help. But here we have a leading figure of the British establishment, a member of the shadow cabinet, actually assisting in legal proceedings, alongside a former advisor to Trump, to hold money that could go to aid those people who are suffering day in, day out. It may sound emotional and emotive to their ears that we talk about the war and the victims of the war, but this is a lived daily reality of people in Ukraine. This is their life as it is at present, and they don't have the privilege to separate themselves and just think about legal arguments, legal niceties, and they don't have the privilege or the obscenity to just think about how much cash they can take from the Russians to be silent about what's happening around them. So that's why we need to be continuing these protests, and we will continue these protests until he's sacked, this stops, and every penny of those assets goes back to where it belongs. All the money he made from Kryvyi should go back to Kryvyi. All the money that he's invested in the Russian regime should go back to the victims of that regime. Abramovich argues that there is somehow an equality between Russia and Ukraine, and any money should be equally divided. There's no equality between the victim and the abuser. There's no justice when there's compensation given to the perpetrator of the crime and not to the victim. The only justice will be for all the money. Every penny of it, every ruble is in the hands of Ukrainians. And those who want to try and go back to business as usual and roll out the red carpet need to be defied. They pose a real threat, as Simon said, to our democracy. Trump, Farage, all of them want to go back to what it was before 2022. But we need to remind them, nothing's changed since 2022. The war continues, the injustice continues, and there can never be normality or peace with fascist dictatorships.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think, did you want to say it? Or Elena? Because I think we'll wind up with this over. Elena, do you want to say a few words before we finish? What do you mean? Do you want me to finish? I'm going to have to abuse my patience and have you as the back audience.
And then, and then after that, we'll do a photo.
Okay.
Just come inside. You're looking at the stand and ignoring me.
Hold on, I'm blinded.
Oh, yeah, no.
Elena, can you do my makeup?
extremely disappointed. He will still be sitting at the cabinet table. He will still be representing Abramovich. He will still be leading a case against the United Kingdom's efforts to take Russian money that should be in the hands of Ukrainians. Therefore, he needs to be dismissed, he needs to be removed, and the money needs to be sent to Ukraine. It's simple as that. It's a moral argument, not a legal argument. Well, I think that she needs to hold this man to account for his actions. It is a conflict of interest that he should be representing a sanctioned Russian oligarch against this country's efforts to bring justice to Ukraine. Her response was really quite shameful. I have one more question. Yeah, but anyway. Would you like the Ukraine to speak? I think we'll go that way. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we're going to be wrapping up in a minute. Yeah. Just one of our MPs can't come and Peter. Something's disappeared. Oh yeah, maybe not.
That as Ukrainian students in the UK, we are deeply concerned about this situation because people in Ukraine are suffering every day. A lot of people die, and they just die unfortunately. A lot of schools have been bombed, a lot of hospitals, and we need this money to Ukraine to build our future. That's why we believe that it's inhumane because we think that Ukrainian rights are not being prioritized at the moment. And the question is,
Do you want to just wait that if you want to speak?
Why terrorists
You're just in time.
being protected by the shadow general.
One final speaker.
I would ask him, is he thinking all right, thinking about blocking down this money for Ukrainian children who could have bright future right now, who could have a peaceful future?
Everyone, we're going to have one final speaker, which is our friend Peter Tacho, a great human rights activist. He was almost beaten to death in Russia defending LGBT rights against the Kremlin. Please, Peter, we've got a bonus.
Well, just to say I'm so honoured to join you.
There you go. Come over.
Any chance? Okay. That way, please. Thank you.
Just to say I'm so glad to join you here tonight, and so proud that you've come out on this cold night and that we are still flying the flag for Ukraine against Russia's imperialist aggression. But particularly tonight, we're shining a spotlight on the Conservative Party and its links, or the links of some of its members, some of its elected officials, with the Putin regime. The fact that a Tory peer is now defending Roman Abramovich in his bid to keep control of those frozen Russian assets. That is shameful. And Kemi Badenoch needs to speak out. In fact, that Tory MP should have the whip removed, and the Tories ought to be saying loud and clear that they will break all ties with the Putin regime and its allies, oligarchs and apologists. We have a really serious situation here in Britain where not only are there people in the Tory party who have been friends of Russia and have apologised and excused and obfuscated Russia's crimes for many years, But we also have a Reform Party which has had links in the past with various members with allies, supporters and contacts in the Kremlin. Those words of apology, those excuses, those justifications, those echoings of Putin's propaganda by Reform are a betrayal of the interests of the people of Ukraine and the people of Britain and Europe. They are on the wrong side of history. And what is so terrifying now is that based on current opinion polls, there is a serious possibility under our corrupt, unfair voting system that Nigel Farage will be the next Prime Minister of this country. Now, of course, things can change over the next 4 years. But right now, Reform has had a consistent lead for 1 year. And although they've dipped slightly in recent weeks, still they're way ahead of any other party. And as we saw in 2024, with Labour winning a 400-plus seat majority based on only 20% of voters turning out and voting for them, only 34% of the votes cast, yet they got 63% of the seats and 100% of the power. That's the dangerous scenario we're in right now with Reform. Reform could replicate that and become the governing party in Britain. And that would be devastating for civil and human rights in Britain, for social justice in Britain, but also for the people of Ukraine. Because Nigel Farage and his acolytes in Reform have for too often echoed the talking points of Putin. They have suggested that Putin was provoked, that somehow that justified or excused or qualified the condemnation that his regime deserves. So just to finish now, Reform is a danger, the Tories are a danger, we must fight them and defend the principle of solidarity with the people of Ukraine, their right to self-defense, their right to self-determination, and those Tories, like that Tory peer who's representing Roman Abramovich, they have to go. Thank you.
I just want to take an opportunity to thank everyone. We called this demonstration at very short notice, and we only began acting in this over Christmas when it became clear what was happening. Some people might say there's no point in having demonstrations, there's no point in us doing anything. I can absolutely assure you there is a point. It was totally worth it. They had to debate this issue in Parliament today, and they were only debating it because of our campaigning. She was only called to account today because of the campaigning that we've been doing, and yes, jointly with friends in the Labour Party, those MPs there, but it was our efforts and your support that's holding that to account. Yeah? And the people in Ukraine who are on the real end of this, they need every bit of support we can give these days. So there's a front line here too, and we really need to keep up the struggle. We know everyone's tired, and indeed people are demoralised about what's happening in the world just now. But now's the time where we really don't want to tire. That's exactly what the Russians want, and exactly what the Russians' friends in this country want us to do. So I'm really grateful for everyone who came out at really short notice. Yeah, really short notice. But this time, it really was worth it. We really have made the headlines. We really have had an impact. And if we keep up the pressure, we can really hit a small victory for Ukraine. Yeah. Thank you very much. You know.
Everyone, I think if we all come together now for a photo, that'd be great before we go. So please come in. chant for their video? What do you want to chant?
Can we do one more for Ukrainian television, please? Sorry.
If not, that's fine.
No, we should. Chris, let's get a chant for TV.
We need a chant.
What do we want, Sack Wolfson, when we want it now? Okay. What do we want?
Sack Wolfson.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Sack Wolfson.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Sack Wolfson.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Sack Wolfson.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Sack Wolfson.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Sack Wolfson.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Sack Wolfson. Okay.
Hi, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Hi, Chris. Sorry, may I grab you? Are you okay just to do a quick one?
Yeah, of course.
Is this...
Did you video the chant?
Yeah. So
That like
just
killed me tonight.
Just because
I couldn't concentrate with ITN.
I turned... Did they turn on their light as well?
No, it was yours. It
I
was
think
right in
I
my
tried to turn
eye.
it away. Alright, Chris. Sorry, it's either that or your face is going to be too dark. So just where this water bottle is, sort of there.
Okay, mate.
And you're looking at me over here,
Yeah,
please, if that's okay.
Who are you for? Press Association.
Press Association, yep. And also, if I may, I'm just also going to try and do an audio recording.
Are you from Press Association too? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Do you want Marianka to talk to her?
Yes, please,
Yeah.
potentially, but
Marianka.
I'll just grab her afterwards if that's okay. Mariana, would you be willing to do a sort of a separate interview just after? That's okay?
Okay.
Just for a couple minutes, if that's okay.
Thank you.
So Chris, just because I'm recording on multiple devices,
No problem.
would you mind introducing yourself fully, just so I can check all your levels?
No problem.
Apologies.
So I'm Christopher Ford. I'm Secretary of the Ukraine Solidarity Campaign.
Thank you. And so your answers it to me, please, for this. Right, so thank you for that, Chris. So first of all, why are we here today?
We're here today to protest the fact that the Conservative Shadow Attorney General is currently representing Roman Abramovich in a court case to obstruct the transfer of frozen Russian assets to Ukraine. He is a member of the Shadow Cabinet, the official opposition. And of course, Abramovich isn't just an ordinary person, a rich person with a very expensive legal team. He is someone who is known to be a close associate of Vladimir Putin, the leader of the Russian regime. He's been sanctioned by the European Union and the UK because his businesses were funding the Russian state and, of course, as a result, have helped enable it and empower it to wage this war. So the actions of this member of the Shadow Cabinet are directly obstructing this, and it's a conflict of interest. It's morally bankrupt, ethically wrong, and acted against the interests of Ukraine and this country.
And just based on previous conversations, I overheard that you sort of paid attention to PMQs today, so you heard it raised. What were your thoughts around the raising of it at PMQs?
It's very good that Keir Starmer raised this issue in Parliament, and the response that Kimmy Badenoch was quite frankly shocking. The justification, her answer that she would have her Shadow Attorney General any day compared to the official Shadow Attorney General was really quite despicable. She didn't address the issue whatsoever She didn't show any respect to the victims of Russian war, who, as a consequence of the destruction of this money, are themselves paying an additional price because this money would be used to ameliorate the conditions of the war that's been waged on them. You heard I cited the example of a rescue centre for abducted children, which has been starved of money because Trump cut the money off. Now, Badenoch doesn't see any context of the war and what she was saying, nor does the Attorney General. And quite frankly, it shows that these people have got a problem with their moral compass. It's quite unethical. And some people might not think that morality matters, but it does. There's human beings at the centre of this situation. The reason for the sanctioning is because of the war, because of what's taking place there. It's not just a question of legal arguments. My feeling after today is that the Labour government needs to take really robust action. It's quite simply wrong that these oligarchs who've been sanctioned should be able to abuse the UK legal system to obstruct justice. So I think emergency legislation is necessary to close this loophole. It's a war situation, therefore the money should be taken that is frozen and transferred. There should be no ifs or buts about this. We shouldn't have them thinking any time there could be a return to normality, business as usual. That door needs to be closed. During World War II, we froze all the German money, and it was used to compensate and rebuild for the victims of Nazi oppression. So Russian fascism should be treated in the same way. There should be no indication that after any peace or any ceasefire, all will be forgotten and we'll go back to business. As we know in London, for a long time we had a problem with Russian oligarchs and their wealth. We're now trying to deal with that problem and clear up the mess the Tories made by turning our city into a sewage pipe of Russian money. So this is why we need a strong message now. And of course, the people of Ukraine need a message of some hope now. And that money would be given some hope.
Thank you. Apologies for the wording of this question, but in the grand scheme of it, how important is this sort of hyper-focus? In the grand scheme of, peace in Russia, peace in Ukraine, peace between...
Well, in the grand scheme, it is very important. Ukraine has just had to borrow 70 billion from the European Union. Now, that shouldn't have happened. They could have transferred the frozen assets. We have in the UK 30 billion in frozen Russian assets. So we could transfer that. That is not a small amount of money. That would make a huge difference to Ukraine, who is currently servicing debt to the World Bank, the IMF and Western states. Really, it shouldn't be needing to borrow money to maintain itself in this current situation when there is money readily available from the perpetrator of the crimes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for interviewing me. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm just going to set up quickly. For this, I'm going to have you on the left and I'm going to stand over here. Sorry,
left?
yeah, my left. So there, and I'm going to stand on this side, but I just need to set up, make sure.
I'm a bit worried. I've never
That's fine.
been interviewed.
This is a pre-record, so if you want to stop and start, that's fine. I'll edit out any sort of cuts, etc. So there's no issue there. And so, would you mind just sort of slightly angling so that you're facing me? Yep, thank you. Okay. So, just for audio levels, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Mariana. I am secretary of Ukrainian Society at Goldsmiths University of London.
Thank you. And just for safety, your name is spelled
Mariana, M-A-R-I-N-A.
I-A-N-A or M-A-R? Sorry, would you mind spelling it again?
M-A-R-I-A-N-A.
Thank you. And your surname is?
Patrick. P-E-T-R-Y-K.
Cool. Thank you very much. Mariana, are you all doing a live or anything? Okay. Okay, cool. No problem. Why are you here today, Mariana?
I'm here today to represent a student voice to speak on behalf of Ukrainian students in the UK on this matter, where the shadow general attorney defending Roman Abramovich, a sanctioned Russian oligarch.
And you have some sort of closer ties to this, being that you have Ukrainian heritage, I believe?
Yes, I come from Ukraine. I was born in Ukraine. I've been living in Ukraine till 2023, and then I escaped the war. I came here to study at the university.
I know it's an obvious question, but I just need to ask it. Why is this so important to you?
It is important to me because I'm, as a student in the UK, especially Ukrainian student in the UK, believe that I'm affected on this issue, and a lot of frozen assets, like a big sum of money, is being held, and a lot of students in Ukraine could not continue with their studies because either their universities were bombed or they had to escape the war. They are refugees in other countries, and I believe that these frozen assets could give a big help to Ukrainian students, Ukrainian children, and in general for rebuilding Ukraine and especially universities.
What is your ideal resolution to this? How do you see this ideally being solved?
As I mentioned before, frozen assets should go to Ukraine, and second of all, I believe that it is a conflict of interest, and as I mentioned in my speech, it is not clear whose rights are being prioritized. As a Ukrainian myself, I want Ukrainian rights to be prioritized because Russia is a terrorist state. They are committing genocide on Ukrainian land for a lot of years, centuries, and I want Ukrainian lives to matter, and I want a happy, bright future for Ukraine. And I'm willing to do anything I can do to help.
Thank you. And I don't know if you paid attention to PMQs today, but where Kemi Badenoch sort of defended her Attorney General and so on, her shadow Attorney General. How does hearing about this make you feel? How does that affect you inside? You know.
I haven't heard about it.
Okay, no problem. How does sort of this protest? How does it make you feel inside to see sort of these people coming out? I'm trying to get on the emotional part of it. So how does it feel to see these people here coming out to protest and so on?
I'm really grateful for everyone who came today. I know it's not a lot of people, but still, I feel like our rights as Ukrainians matter, and I'm really happy that this question is important not only to Ukrainians but for our friends from Great Britain. So I'm really thankful for supporting Ukraine, and Christopher, he's been a really good friend for Ukraine, and yeah, I'm really thankful for this initiative.
Thank you very much for your time. Well done. It was pre-recorded. You did fine. No need for me to edit much, except just to cut out the question I asked that you weren't sure.
Is it going to be on TV, YouTube?
So what happens is I'm with Press Association, so we provide content to others from broadcasters. So for example, ITV, Sky, Channel, BBC, etc. And they have access to that content. So if they want it, they can take it. If they don't, it's up to them. But yes, thank you very much for your time.